listening to the Smaller Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 207. So today on the Smaller Supercharged podcast, we are joined by Nina Barbour, who you may know as the lady behind Bolesworth, Liverpool Horse Show, all sorts actually. So thank you very much for joining us, Nina. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here, Ria. Thank you very much.
So can you tell us a bit about you, because I know in addition to running events, you're also a show jumper with a passion for horses, and I was lucky enough to come to a press event a few weeks ago, and we also heard about the history of Bolesworth, so there's so much going on. So can you just tell us a bit about you and how you got to do what you do now?
So no, there's loads going on here at Bolesworth all of the time, and whilst lots of people will know us for the horse shows here, and they've been a big part of my life for the last 10 or 15 years now, it's always flat to the board because the estate and the property business also take up an awful lot of my time, and day to day there's always a lot going on there. We've got lots of exciting projects in the pipeline, both with events that are equestrian events that are new ideas. We started doing the Christmas lights here at Bolesworth last December, which was a big Christmas event that carried on for about a month. And we've got a new programme of quite exciting stuff, from family-focused events to events with electric vehicles and car fests happening again in a couple of months, well, in a month's time. Wow. But the actual business itself is pretty busy, and we've got new projects around leisure and tourism happening here at Bolesworth in the aftermath of COVID, where there's lots of opportunities around. And of course, I do try and keep my eye in myself. I've got 2 or 3 lovely horses to compete. That's tough, especially as I've got a little boy now who's nearly 2, and obviously takes up most of my free time. But it's great I've always found it's really important to keep going to the shows, especially the ones that we aspire to be like. And you always pick things up, and I think it's important to, keep in as a rider, as an owner, as a groom, and just really understand what everybody wants. And the danger is if you stop going to those events, and if I stop riding at those events, you stop making the time for them, and you lose touch of it. And that's the last thing I want to do, because the equestrian events are such an important part of what we do.
No, completely. So you've obviously been around the estate, and I know when I came to the event, it is absolutely, for anyone listening that hasn't been up to Bolesworth, I mean, obviously there's an event coming up you should definitely go to, but it is the most beautiful setting. It's quite unlike anywhere I've ever been, actually. It's just beautiful, but it's more than just the beautiful house and the equestrian arenas. You've got a lot of acreage there, haven't you? And you've got cattle and all sorts of things going on in different parts of the estate.
Yeah, we do. It's prime dairy farming country where we are in Cheshire, and my grandfather and his ancestors before him, well, he was particularly passionate about dairy farming, and to the detriment actually of a lot of the beautiful buildings on the estate, because he just knocked everything down in place of tractors and modernisation. But he made the place, one of the really successful parts of the world for dairy farming, and we're really lucky to have 6 or 7 of probably the country's top dairy farmers here, which underpins everything we do. And it's the land that we run the events on, it's the land that our property is on. And my father then spent his lifetime really making the most of the sites that have been freed up over time, where dairy farms had amalgamated into much bigger premises, and diversified with lots of commercial property in particular. We now have about 150 businesses based here on the estate, ranging from very small up to 5,000 or 10,000 square feet of offices, and some other big leisure businesses as well. We have an ice cream farm that's based here that attracts about 500,000 visitors a year, and a marina and a retirement village, and there's lots of different things going on behind the scenes, as well as the events, which are our sort of public facing side of the business.
Definitely. So when you took over the reins of Bolesworth, was it very much like it is now, or have you really developed it during that time?
It was always a very private house and estate, and people wouldn't really have known it was here. And so that's one of the things that, yeah, I get a lot of pleasure out of, is opening the doors when we do run our events, because as you say, it's such a beautiful part of the world, and it's great to see people come and enjoying themselves, and a lot of them, when we run these new events, seeing it for the first time and enjoying it, and you get a lot of pleasure out of that, for sure.
Definitely. It must be quite a responsibility as well. I was thinking, actually, it made me think a bit of Downton Abbey, as in it's a beautiful house, you've got a big estate, and it genuinely is stunning. But with big houses, big estates, there's a lot of responsibility, and obviously you have a lot of people working with you or who have got land that they work for you. It's a big job, isn't it, pulling this all together?
It is a big job pulling it all together, and I think we made quite a few brave moves. Well, leading into COVID, our estate manager that had been with us for a long, long time got headhunted and went to work for the Duchy of Cornwall. So got his dream job, and it was a really tough one for him to leave here, because he'd grown up here really with us. But it gave me the chance to make lots of changes, bring new people in, do things a bit differently. But that comes with a bit of grief as well, because whenever you start a big process of change, it's not easy to get it right. And then obviously COVID hit, and all the challenging things, Brexit and everything, that have put a lot of change in our paths over the last year or two. And we'd just done a big rebrand, well, put the Bolesworth brand on the map really across the whole business for the first time just before COVID. And as I say, got lots of new faces as part of the team. And so that's made it really quite difficult across the board, really, because when you've got established systems and people that have been here for years, the remote working isn't such a bother, and you get into the swing of things like that. But I think it's quite difficult when you are making a lot of change, doing new things, and you've got a lot of new people on board, then that does make it very challenging, pulling the whole business together. And that's where it's so great now that the world's coming back to normal, and we're actually able to get everybody together in the office and operate normally again.
No, definitely, because I mean, for the event industry particularly, I mean, it's such a good example of why it's so important to have not eggs in many baskets, because I don't like that expression, but it's good that it wasn't just solely an events business, because obviously when COVID happened, the events didn't work for anybody, did they? So having that system,
I think we were really lucky, because given a lot of the events we run, the equestrian events we run, are pretty industry focused. We were able to carry on in the main part behind closed doors, and that enabled us to keep in a bit of a rhythm, because I think that's the hardest thing when you're in events, and we've got a lot of events going on now. The pace is really, really fast. It has to be fast, because things change, things adapt. You're working to deadlines all the time, and I think it must have been very tough for those businesses that were running events that did stop for a chunk of time, because getting everything back up to gear. I mean, I found it myself, although I made it my business really to keep going, and we did lots of things. Even when we were in the strictest of lockdown at the very, very beginning, we did equestrian relief, which raised a lot of money for the NHS charities, and was a really nice way of sort of keeping our team going, engaging with some really top personalities within the equestrian industry that never really had time to do that kind of thing. But even so, over the last 6 months, it's been hard just getting all the systems up and running again. And I think nobody really realised how much of an influence Brexit was going to have on the equestrian industry. That's had huge implications, not all negative, but costs have risen so much with going abroad. On the one hand, unless you're running a big 5-star show jumping event in the UK, you don't really get anybody travelling across from Europe. At the same time, it's really, really expensive now for the Brits and the Irish to go across to Europe. So we're still seeing very, very strong entries for our events. But it's a continually changing landscape at the moment, and it's hard to know how to predict what people are going to do next.
Completely. I mean, there were obviously, we've had COVID, but now as you say, there's been Brexit, there's fuel increases, there's the cost of living increase, there's a lot of stuff going on that affects all of the community, isn't there?
There is, and I think last year actually the events we were able to run went really, really well. The Christmas event I mentioned before, that was outdoors at a time just before Christmas, obviously, when everybody was still a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
And so it was a great time to be launching an outdoor Christmas event. But this year, actually, it's got really, really tough because you've got everything going back to normal. So people that have been, sheltering in their homes for the last couple of years now have so much choice of what to do. They're going back to the pub, they're going back to the cinema, they're going to see their friends and family that they haven't seen for a couple of years. And of course, all of those events from the last 2 years that have postponed have now landed into this calendar year. So just because we're running equestrian events, it doesn't mean they're not affected by everything, really. I think everybody who's putting on live events or who have restaurants or public businesses like that is feeling it this year. Combined with the cost of living going up, it's a really tough year.
No, definitely. But on to jollier things. You've obviously got the Dodson and Horrell Bolesworth International Show very fast approaching. When this comes out, it'll be 2 weeks away, which is really, really exciting. So when did you actually start with the horse shows, and what was the kind of evolution to get from where you started to where you are now? Because it really is quite a spectacular now, isn't it?
Yeah, really excited about the horse show coming up and being able to run to a full programme of events and hospitality and evening entertainment. Because even last year, when we ran fairly normally, we were still in step 3, so we still had to be a bit careful. But going back to the very beginning, it was back in 2008 when we started. I was still eventing, doing a lot of eventing, but we'd looked at, whether we should run an event here or what we should do, because my passion being equestrian, and but at the same time knowing that I was never going to be a top rider, the events was an obvious route for me to go, because it enabled me to sort of bring everything, like everybody I knew, all my contacts together and organise some amazing things. And so we started with the show jumping because the ground here is very difficult. It's heavy clay, and so eventing would have been a challenge. And I think also commercially, show jumping is easier to make work, especially when you're starting from scratch, having done nothing before. And we just started with sort of one of the biggest national shows on the circuit, put a lot of prize money up, got all the top names. I mean, even when it was a national show in a field, those first few years, we had Nick Skelton, Laura Kraut, all the Whittakers, lots of top names there, and it was just so exciting to see that up and running back all those years ago.
Amazing. And then because actually it's not that long at all, is it? 2008 to now, really. Think about how long some of particularly the eventing circuit, some of those events have been running for forever, haven't they? You've obviously made quite a lot of modifications and improvements to the sites. There's the most amazing kind of oval arena and all sorts going on there. So when did those bits come in? Does that help you then go from like national to international?
Well, exactly that, because I was always really ambitious to grow the event, and I got the bug by then. And it was around 2012, 2013, after the Olympics in London, where it was, and that was obviously a really inspiring time for all of us in equestrianism. But like I said, the ground here is a bit of a nightmare. So although for the national shows that we ran at the beginning, we only had to get 2 arenas right on grass, what always ended up happening was that we'd water them so they were perfect, and then it would rain, and then it would get muddy, and it was a bit soul destroying. So it was very clear to move forwards and step up to that international sport. We needed to invest in the facilities. And it was Andrews Bowen actually at the time that we worked with to put in the, quite spectacular amphitheatre arena we have here. And it was, that in itself was a mission, because I can't remember if it was the winter of 2012. No, it must have been the winter of 2013, I think. And it was so wet, and they were having to build this great mountain of a bank when it was just solid rain for about 6 months. So it was sort of down to the wire, really, getting everything finished and turfed and getting the moat installed and all of those features that it's got, which make it that bit special. But I think that was just the most exciting thing. The year before, when everybody left us, it had been a really wet year and everybody had left a muddy field. And to see everyone's faces when they drove in and saw this brand new facility and the difference from how it had been the year before was super exciting.
I can imagine. So thinking about this year and the event that's happening in just a few weeks, what's going on? Tell us all about it. What can we expect if we come on over to Bolesworth?
We've got a brilliant lineup of riders. It's not 100% confirmed yet, but we've got some real stars. We've got Guy Williams, Joe Stockdale, quite a few riders from the world of eventing. Pippa Funnels bringing her horses, of course, with her husband Will. Ben Hobday. I think Gemma Tattersall's actually bringing. She's got a couple of very good jumping horses now. So we've got a really amazing international lineup for the 3-star jumping. Which, of course, the big climax will be the Dodson Horrell Grand Prix on the Sunday, and with world ranking classes most days. So it's a great venue for, easily just going behind the scenes, seeing the horses warm up, and just rubbing shoulders with those top riders. And then on top of that, we've got shopping all the way through, great food and drink outlets. And lots going on over the weekend. We've actually got lots of dog things going on. So have a go dog agility, family dog shows, and competitive agility going on for the first time, which would be great to watch. We've got shire horses, donkey rides, fair rides, lots going on for, those families wanting to just come and have a nice day out. And then, of course, on the more serious equestrian side, we've got our elite auction, which is happening on the Friday of the event. We launched last year a Ridden horse auction for the first time alongside elite yearlings, which we've been doing now for about 6 or 7 years. And that's a big part of this event as well. And it's great actually to see now we're 7 years or so down the line, a lot of those horses from those early years coming through and succeeding out there on the young horse circuit, and doing what we hope they do.
That's really exciting. I know you've also got a collaboration with Michael Owen, haven't you? I saw some fabulous pictures of you on your grey and him in a white car. So can you tell us a bit about that?
That's right. Well, Michael's has had his racehorse base, Manor House Stables, just up the road from us. So he's about 5 minutes away for a long time now. And we've always been friends, and but this year we thought it would be actually great to sort of formalize that partnership. And so we got our heads together, and it's an exciting time for Michael as well this year, because he's just got a new trainer, Hugo Palmer, who's was one of the big Newmarket trainers, who's moved his horses up to Cheshire. And so I think Michael overnight, about a month ago, went from 90 horses in training to 170 horses in training. Wow. So he's got a lot to shout about. There's a lot of synergies in what we do with our respective businesses. And he's coming on board and making appearances at a few of our events this year, the first of which being the horse show in a few weeks' time, where we've got a speed and style day. So it's all about sport and speed and style and fast cars. And him and AP are heading up a panel on the Thursday in the hospitality, which would be great fun. And then taking part in the ride and drive show jumping class in the evening. So that's going to be a great way to kick off the week.
That would be amazing. Really amazing. And I'm quite excited as well because on a slightly different note, we've got BETA involved this year, the British Equestrian Trade Association, from you in terms of the safety aspect, because that's something that you're incredibly passionate about because of what you do as a rider, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've always felt passionately about safety and taking all the sensible precautions that are out there. It's a dangerous sport, and I think it's very easy for people to underestimate how, how these freak accidents can happen so quickly, especially when you're on the ground around horses. And, we had a tragic accident that happened to a close friend in Shaz Quigley last year, just before the horse show. And that really was a freak accident. Shaz was one of the most experienced horsewomen on the circuit, but sustained a horrible kick to her skull and was very lucky to pull through. And she's now, her and her family are now going through a long fight to her full recovery. We hope that she'll get there. But at these horse shows, you just see a lot of accidents happening that could be prevented, and a lot of things that go on that actually are really, really dangerous. Everybody arrives at the event and trots their horses up, and before and after the big competitions, the boot checks get done, and grooms and officials and stewards are messing about around some quite highly strung horses' back legs. Those stables, that we have 900 horses on site, and
Crikey.
A lot of people and horses in close proximity, and we do see accidents happen that could be prevented. And I think I really feel that both on and off the horse, people should be encouraged to wear the right headwear. Grooms should be supported in having the up-to-date standards in their hat safety, and we should be promoting it as much as we possibly can to prevent and to increase awareness of how unpredictable these horses can be, and just keep it front of mind for everyone.
Absolutely. I think when high profile riders as well, I know Charlotte Desjardins trotted up at the Olympics wearing a hat, and I thought that was such an incredible moment, because you do see these pictures of horses at trot ups at events, dressage, show jumping, eventing, and they're obviously really wired and excited because there's this really electric atmosphere, an incredibly fit horse, and no hat. And most of the time you don't think anything about it until you then see a picture and there's a horse rearing up, sort of showing the person holding on to its front shoes, and you think, oh my goodness, that's close.
Exactly. And I think the same will happen with the air jackets in show jumping. A lot of people wear them eventing and have done for a long time, but now, especially when you go onto the international circuit, I was lucky enough to go out to Spain in March for a few weekends with my horses, and had never had an air jacket. I used to ride in one when I did the cross country, but I've never worn one for show jumping, and actually saw a few friends who I really respected wearing them at the top of the sport, and just thought, again, this is crazy. That's it's something that's worth investing in. And again, it could just make an accident that little bit less serious if you have one, because it isn't generally doing your sport on a normal day that you have these accidents. It's generally something out of the ordinary that happens, and again, these horses are unpredictable animals. They can slip over on tarmac or turn around and kick each other or anything like that. And I think that's something that will really take off in the next couple of years as well.
No, completely. I think it'll be really good to have that sort of that safety hub there where people can go to learn new skills, educate themselves, find out about it, not in a sort of way that's saying, oh, you shouldn't get on a horse, because I work with Beta, I know very passionately that's not what they say at all. But as you say, it's just the education, that awareness. And when you see these freak accidents happen so close to home, it really does put it into focus that everybody's vulnerable, and thinking of the steps that we can all take, or the additional education we can take on board, is definitely a big win.
I think so. And I think, like when I was a kid, we did pony club, and loads of people made their way up through the pony club, and that was always drilled into you, the horse safety and the horse handling. And I think that gets missed out a lot now, and people just don't think about it so much. So it is really important.
Definitely. And I know you've got quite a few things going on in the main arena again. I feel like I'm just on a promotion for Beta. I'm not. I know we've got like a live rider clinic and things like that. But what other events do you have on in the arena? Because this is between the classes, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we always try to have a full schedule of rider interviews and talks going on, and exactly that. We're going to have a few focuses, one on safety, and another one on forbidden substances as well, because that's a really important topic where people don't necessarily understand, just by potentially exposing their horses to silly human foodstuffs or drinks, that they can be risking their sport if they get tested.
I couldn't agree more with that. It's really shocked.
Exactly. So it's a really good opportunity to sort of get in front of people and for a bit of education as well.
No, definitely. So what are you most looking forward to about the 2022 event, the Dodson Horrell International? No, the Dodson Horrell Bolesworth International Horse Show. That's the correct title, I think. What are you most looking
exactly it. Well, I just love seeing all the riders and seeing the sport. That's always the biggest highlight for me, and just seeing that Grand Prix on the final day and taking the sponsors into the ring for the jump off, and it's all so exciting, and that's why we do it. But I think at the same time, it's just that the fun factor is going to be back this year, and we always love the entertainment here at Bolesworth and the parties that we do. We've got a full lineup of that going on. And lots going on for the public too, and just to see lots of people there with their families and kids and dogs having fun will be a real highlight for us as well. Because even before COVID, I think we had a really wet year where the public couldn't come in. Then we obviously missed a year because of COVID, and last year was nearly there but not quite. Whereas this time it'll be all guns blazing and everybody out to have a great time, and we'll look forward to the sport going really, really well, and then people socializing, having a great time in between.
Definitely. So remind us when it's running, what's running on the different days, and how people can find out more. Do they need to buy their tickets in advance? Can they buy on the gate? How does it work?
So the event's going to be kicking off on the 29th of June. That's a Wednesday. And we actually start with the next gen dressage qualifiers for that morning, and the start of the international jumping in the afternoon, with the A-list auction preview that evening. So a soft start, but still lots going on. And then the main international jumping runs through from the Thursday, the 30th, through to the Sunday, which is the 3rd of July. And the highlights really include, we've got our ride and drive spectacular on the Thursday evening. We've got ranking classes on the Thursday and the Friday, and the elite auction on the Friday night. And then Saturday night's Puissance night, which is always a big highlight for the fans of that. And Guy Williams is bringing Mr. Blue Sky, so we're hoping he's going to be jumping a huge wall in front of a huge crowd on a sunny evening. And then, of course, Sunday's Grand Prix day, and we have the mini major, which is the kids' fancy dress pairs relay, which is always really fun to watch. And lots of attractions, as I said, happening over the weekend. We've got Shire horses and donkey rides on the other end of the scale, and lots of dog activities going on. And it's always best to buy the tickets but before you get to the event, because there's an online discount. And all the information and what's on, and all the detailed schedules for each day can be found at bolesworthinternational.com on our website.
Is there anything else you would like to share or add before I let you go off? And you're a busy lady, not only horses, but a big event coming up very soon.
Yeah, we've got a big event, and we're also looking forwards very much to the Al Shirar Young Horse Championships later in the year. That's another big international event for us, and an important one for the industry. And just, I spend quite a lot of time, when I'm lying there in the bath, thinking about what the future looks like and what the calendar might look like for next year. And there's definite opportunity, as I said, post Brexit, where the landscape's changed a lot, and I think this year a lot of people will have gone abroad for the first time after COVID and got a real shock at the cost of how much it now costs to get your horses across the water. So potentially scope to add more events in to the calendar for next year. So we'll be spending lots of time working out what that might look like. And all I'd say is just watch that space.
No, definitely. And definitely do, have a good look at Bolesworth. Go and have a look at the website. And I think it's so great because there really is something for everybody. You can come with your family, you can come with your friends, you can come on your own, whatever. You're going to be able to find things to have an amazing time in a really beautiful part of the world with amazing sport in front of you as well.
Yeah, we very much look forward to welcoming lots of old faces and new faces this year. And as Ria says, I just encourage you to come if you've not been before. Come and have a great time and come and have a drink with us.
Thank you so much for chatting, Nina. It's been great to speak to you, and I wish you all well. I'll be up there enjoying it as well. So I wish you all the best, and I hope to help you as well.
Well, exactly. We'll look forward very much to having you at the event and working with you. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.